Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode from Mentalverse. Today, we will talk about the importance of emotional education in esports, the method, and also strategies that are relevant for players, coach, and staff. So, if you are interested, don't skip it and stay here. Now, I'm going to move with a Spanish mode. So, muy buenas a todas y a todos. Volvemos con un nuevo episodio de la nueva serie de Mentalverse. En él hablaremos hoy sobre la educación emocional dentro del sector de los esports y la importancia que tiene. Hablaremos de una metodología y luego también pues daremos algunas estrategias para jugadores, entrenadores y personas del staff. Así que bueno, si os interesa este tema, ya sabéis, quedaros porque comenzamos. Before to start, I would like to say that we have been mentioned this topic or theme because it's very related with the emotional intelligence, as you know, Nadim.
Yes. And it's quite complicated because it goes deeper and deeper the more we research about it and the more we read about it. Even though there's so many similarities to it, but it's completely diverse in its own way and its own models. That's the thing about those models that we've read in the previous episodes, that they're so similar. Even the one we're going to read about now and discuss about now, it's very similar, but its application is different depending on how you apply it and where you apply it.
Okay, so first I'm going to say that emotional education is studied the social concept. Okay, for instance, in a school, we work the traditional mode. In this case, we just try to teach subject. Okay, and we have to develop different key competencies about the educational law. But emotional education just focus in a social aspect and more related with psychology. So the father of this type of education is Bisquera, and he defined this topic as an educational innovation whose purpose is to develop emotional skills to improve personal and social well-being. It is said also that emotional education intends to respond to all those social needs that are not tended to in formal education. As I said, it's very different the formal education and the social education. Right, Nadim?
Correct.
So is it clear?
And
Okay.
that shows you that emotional. Now, a lot of people were debating before that emotional education, a high emotional intelligence is born within the person, and that's it. But with Biscara's model and a lot of other models, it shows that it's not restricted to people who are born with high emotional intelligence. That it can be taught via certain techniques and methodologies. That with time, a person can improve and increase their emotional intelligence.
Okay. And about the emotional education, we have also need to say that they try to work with different type of personal emotions such
Mhm.
as the low self-esteem, depression, stress, anxiety, and violence, among other aspects. Okay, so I think emotional education is essential to work with this in also in esport because these types of emotions are very present in the esports atmosphere.
Absolutely. They do
Right.
make quite the impact, considering we've spoken about it in the last episode, and we were very accurate with how influential and how impactful they are, each in emotion in its different situation, and how it can impact the person, be it positive or negative, depending on the person and how it's applied and the circumstances itself.
Mhm. Okay, and now about the model or the method. We mentioned before in the last episode that Meyer and Salobi create a model about emotional intelligence, also Goleman and other researchers. In this article, Vizquerra um, developed also a model that was related or very close no, with the model of Meyer, Salobi, and Goleman. And his model work five categories about to apply different techniques. These techniques are very similar because he keep into a touch the model of the other researchers. For instance, the first category that we have is the emotional awareness, that is the understanding of own emotion and those of others. The other is the emotional regulation, that is to managing our emotion and control the way that we express ourselves, no, to try to control ourselves when we are doing something. Also we have the personal autonomy, is like to self the self management, no,
Hmm?
of our emotions,
Yeah,
or maybe also all attitude, and also to be responsible about different things. Also we have the interpersonal intelligence, is like to maintain a good relationship with others, and also the life and wellness skill, like to try to solve the problems that you can have, or maybe the conflict. I think this very related also with the esports, and we have been talking about this in the last episode, right, Nadim?
absolutely. And as we can see that this model, as like the others models, are so similar, and there's this similarities between both, and also the differences between both. But they have their own way of describing it differently. Like Biscara has his own way of describing it differently. The other researchers have their own unique way of describing it. But in the end, it all revolves around the same aspect of emotional intelligence and emotional education. It goes back to the same bubble. That's what matters in the end.
And this technique, I'm going to ask you something. This technique could be applied for players, coaches, and also the staff, or only in a specific profiles?
Yep. I mean, I wonder what kind of specifications we're talking about, but question mark.
Okay, this technique, it could be applied in all of the profiles
Mhm.
in the esports atmosphere. This method is not only to work in a school; you can apply in different areas. So I think in esport is also good to work with this. I work with this. I have a club, and I work the emotional education with my players and also the staff, the coach. I think it's interesting because this model give you different strategies and techniques, and they can put into practice, no.
Mhm.
They can change their, not change, but I mean they can to know to how to control their emotions while they are under pressure, for instance, right?
It's
So
basically
I
how
think.
you it's on a level of influence, like how they can influence themselves in a certain situation or a critical situation. Because as we spoke before, some people tend to have this loose cannon, as the description goes, where people just cannot contain themselves, and in a moment's notice they just lose control and fall into a state of outburst, and that impacts several categories. It's like a dominoes effect. They get angry, they lose focus. They lose focus, they get triggered. They get pissed off at their teammates. They lose concentration and the implementation of strategies. And all that will lead to the critical defeat moment because they all connect to one another. And that's what this scenario is all about: how to be able to maintain these behaviors, these emotions, in a
Mhm.
critical moment without just getting angry and that's it. We lose, no more chances of winning. And this is the
Yes.
strategy these this system of education in the emotional aspect applies to.
Hmm. For instance, if we take the coach profile, how can they benefit, no, from the emotional education? Well, they can improve the emotional management, and also to be able to manage their emotion in moments that they are under pressure, no, when they are in a competition, or maybe when the directive said, I need some result and I need that you get that result, no. So the emotional education will help them to control their emotions. Also, if we move to the staff, I think it would be similar, because the staff is going to work with the players and with the coach and maybe with other managers. So I think maybe they can control their emotion, maybe with communication, no? Because it's
Absolutely.
something that we have been talking in the other episode. Maybe with players, we have different aspects that emotional education can work with them. No, it's like the organizational skills, relation techniques, facilitating adaptation, encourage emotional expression, and providing resources. No, this is something that we can work with emotional education with the players. also with the others, but I think this is most focused on the players, no?
Yeah.
Because for instance, when they are doing a training, no, or maybe when they are in a competition, they have to organize their tasks, no, or activities or trainings. So this is important to work with them. Also, we have the relaxation techniques. It's like the meditation, breathing, visualizing a relaxing sitting, no, imagining that you are under pressure. The relaxation techniques, I mean, I think is essential, right?
It depends. The thing about these strategies is it depends on the person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's sometimes it works for a player that they can relax, they can control. Because I've done a reading about it once that when you're angry, your heartbeat changes, and to control your heartbeats, you have to breathe and relax yourself. It's like relaxing your body in order to control the tempo of your heartbeat. So that way you can relax. Or I think just wash your face in cold water. That works. Or from what I've
Mm-hmm.
read. These systems work for the players. For the coach, for example, I mean, the coach could get angry, but it will not ruin the tournament itself because the players are
Mm.
busy playing and the coach just gets angry and then he calms down instantly. I mean, it's not going to
I think
change the flow.
I think the coach is the one that need to say, okay, you need to do relaxation techniques
Mhm.
or doing something that can relax. And I think it's something that the coach can say it, but I think it's the player who needs to do it.
Yeah. I mean, the coach
Not only
suggests and the player applies, but how the player applies
exactly,
it depends on the player himself or herself.
exactly. Later we have, well, no, later, and now we have the facilitating adaptation. It's like that the player need to connect with other players, like the communication, no, try to solve problems with them. And I think this is something very important with players, coach, and also the members of the staff. No, but I think the players, if they are playing in a team, this is essential to be flexible and adaptable. No.
Absolutely. This is the social aspects. Like we
Yes.
said before, a player cannot be a lone wolf in a team because that will result in lack of communication, and in return, it will result in bad team plays, bad choices, and decision making skills. And this is why the team have to have a strong communication
Hmm.
sense with each other. Because if one person decides, okay, I'm going to go by myself, and he gets picked off by the enemy team, the team themselves become down by one player. Imagine 4v5 in a critical moment. Nobody wants to be in that situation. Therefore, the team has to focus on the aspect of communicate, shot calling, decision making together as one, not as a lone wolf where everybody does their own thing. It doesn't work.
Yes. The next one is the encouraging emotional expression. This one is about to express your emotions. For instance, if you're not well, you don't feel well, you just need to communicate this because this is essential because maybe you are in a tournament and you're in an emotional way, you are not well. You have to say, you know, you have to communicate it. This is, I think, one of the most important thing in when you are working in a team. You know what I mean?
I mean, your team can't be a mind reader. We're not talking about Dr. Xavier here. You have to sometimes you have to just tell your team what's going on. I mean, not
Yeah.
everyone can guess what's going on. Not everybody can read your mind or read your body language. I mean, it takes some kind of skills to do that. But if a person can't, I mean, you're gonna have to tell them what's going on. You're gonna have to say, okay, this thing's pissing me off. Can we do it that way? And then the team can coordinate for a proper, positive strategy instead of just sitting there doing something. Bad things happen, then you start blaming left and right. It's like, no, people can't read your mind. We're not telekinetic people. You have to sometimes say it, tell the others. I mean, after all,
Yes.
we are a team. So you're going to have to say, okay, this is happening. This is causing me to lose. Guys, let's do this and that. And it'll
Mm,
possibly bring good results if people just pay attention to these little details.
exactly. And the last one, we have the providing resources. Um, I think this is also important because when we are working in a team or with other people, we need the resources. Also, we need the tools, also the staff to help our needs. No, while we are working in a club, this is essential. No, the players cannot be alone. They need all the things that they need. No, while they are working. So I think it's not. It could be important, no, but I think there are other aspects that we have to work.
Club,
Have
as a club, people have to understand that this is like as
mm,
the players, they can't think by
yeah,
themselves. They are part of a unit, and the same thing for the coach. The coach can't pick favorites. Can't say, okay, I prefer this player. There is no such mentalities. They are an entire unit. When one player has a problem, the coach has to pay attention. When the team has a problem, the entire staff has to pay attention. When there is, problems or balance issues, the staff all works together.
yes,
The staff can't just work with one person and that's it, and the problem just goes away. No, it doesn't work. Because
exactly.
keep in mind, this is a team, and as a team, they're all
Mm,
influencing one another, be it positive or negative. So that's where the coaches and staff have to connect with each other and can't just say, I prefer this guy over this guy. That No, they have to connect as one, they have to focus as one, and bring strategies as a unit. And that in return
mhm.
will create a sort of a chemistry between the teammates and will bring good results in a tournament. After all, people, when they go to a tournament, they're already prepared, they're mentally prepared and strategically prepared, so they'll bring good results in the process.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so now we have to say that it is evident that we have to control our emotion in esport competition and in other areas, no? And also it is essential to work the emotional education to develop our emotional intelligence, right?
Yep.
So we could say that it is very connected, these two topics. So now we also could say that the development of the emotional intelligence through the emotional education can help to improve our attention and concentration, also to make better decisions during competitions, among other aspects. Okay, and also it could help us to control our emotion in key moments, such as the after a good move to the opponent, making a mistake, maybe experiencing a losing break even during a training, or maybe experiencing fatigue or losing focus, or maybe when a teammate is blaming you for a losing game, or maybe the famous tilt.
Yep.
So this type of method can help us to control that kind of emotions, right?
Absolutely, but this is the beauty about it all. Emotional education is with us the moment we're born. Like when we're born in a household, that household becomes our emotional education guide. Then, when we go to school, school becomes our educational guide. When we go to university, it's the same thing. Everywhere we go, there's an emotional education place where we can learn and study how we can improve our emotional education in the process. When we go to a job, any type of jobs, also the environment. Everything we do in our life is in itself an emotional education zone where it enhances, be it, it could enhance or it could not enhance our emotional intelligence in the process. Because sometimes, for instance, in school, some people lose their self esteem because of bullying or feeling unwanted or not belonging. When they move to university, it reverses. They become more confident. They're able to face their social phobias and so forth. Every place we go to in our life becomes a place where it's an emotional education. And the same thing could be said about esports in its own way. Esports becoming a zone of its own, because when we join clubs, when we join a team, that place becomes an emotional education zone in itself with its own techniques and its own strategies. It's tilting works everywhere. When you're sitting at in any type of job, you tilt. Nobody wants to see an employee tilting. The same could be said about a player, and that's why every workplace has its own strategies to help fix the negativity of a person or an employee. And the same thing could be said about esports. And that's the thing about it all, where we see that coaches are responsible for that specific zone. They take different strategies and so forth, and that's how things
Yes,
progress in its own.
exactly. So work and training routines is going to help them, right?
Yep,
Or in
absolutely.
different aspects. So
Yes,
yeah, I think
yeah,
it's essential to work with this.
absolutely.
So I think we could say it like a summary that the emotional education, it will be a good method to
Mm,
work in esports.
absolutely.
Okay, and also there are other types of strategies such as the um, we have talking about the relaxation, the breathing,
Mhm.
but also we can practice the mindfulness, no, or maybe the diagram abdominal. There are like different methods that they can work in this type of emotional moment.
Mhm.
So I think it is very interesting that this kind of method would be applied in the esports.
That depends
Because
on
for
as we said, that depends on the player and the situation they're
yeah,
in. I mean, imagine in the middle of a tournament, a
mm,
player's tilt. Okay, I want to go jogging, dude. You cannot do that. There is a different
mhm,
strategy for the moment. But when you're, let's say, you're in a tournament online. Okay, there's a timeout moment. The person goes, walks around his house or her household, and they return and they continue playing. Or there's the punchback system. You know, you start punching a bag or
mm,
something just to feel relieved, you know, to relieve the tension. Apparently, physical exercises tend to have more impact, but depending on each individual. The stress ball, I think, where you just pressure it or grab it and throw it on a wall or something, it depends on each person. But they all work positively toward the person to maintain this moment of self control. And if we're talking about, let's say, a casual gamer, let's say you're playing in a tournament and let's say you lost or something and you're pissed off, usually people do is they convert to a casual type game, like a single type player games, where they could just, you know, relax. Just there's
mhm,
no pros and cons to losing. You just play the game, have fun.
mhm,
When you feel mentally prepared, because apparently losing or tilting or anything causes mental exhaustion. When
yep,
somebody's mentally exhausted, they can't bring results no matter how experienced they are. They're just,
mhm,
you know, completely shut down. That's it. Person needs time, like a vacation of sorts. And that's where a person does, depending on what strategies they want to follow a pattern that suits them perfectly. And when they're mentally recovered, they get back to it and bring the results people expect them to bring.
okay. We have been talking about players, but this we don't need to forget that these techniques also are applied to the coach and also the staff profiles. No, just to develop their professional progress, no professional. So yeah, I think be interesting to work with,
I mean, and yeah, I
right?
mean, a coach. I mean, it's not just about, as we said, it's not just about the players. The coaches
Mm-hmm,
are also a key element. If a coach is not able to maintain his or her emotions, that will impact the player. I mean, nobody wants to be guided by someone who gets pissed off very fast. So the coach also has to apply a strategy on his own. He can't just guide his own. Imagine a coach telling his teammates or his players not to get pissed off, and he gets angry. The players will look at him and say, "You're telling us to do that? Shouldn't you be doing that as well?" It's like one of those types of habits where somebody smokes and tell you, "Don't smoke, it's bad for your health." It just doesn't work. It's just bizarre. So those strategies have to apply on everyone because they're both
yes.
connected. So if the coach is angry, the player becomes angry in connection. If the coach is able to maintain good behavior, it will reflect upon the player. It's connected.
Mm-hmm, yes. Okay, so in conclusion, I mean, just finish this episode, we could say that emotional intelligence and emotional education both are the main pillars in esport competitions. Also, it is essential that players work on their own emotions in order to maintain a healthy work atmosphere, create a safe and positive space for growth, and not overburden their teammates. And on the other hand, as we have said before, a coach and staff must also understand how to educate and help their players in order to achieve good synergy, as well as knowing how to manage their own emotions due to the pressure that they may feel during an outside competition. So I think it is essential that these two concepts must be used in the area of esports.
Absolutely.
Right, Nadim?
Yes, so coaches, you're not off the hook. So it's also on you, not just the players.
So I think this is a new beginning, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah,
So I think we'll be very interested to still working on this aspect.
yep, absolutely. No end to that one.
So well, this is the end of the episode. I hope that you enjoyed this topic. And well, see you on the next episode that maybe is going to be in the next week. Who knows?
Stay tuned. More suspense coming
So
soon.
yeah, stay tuned, guys. So see you.
Bye bye.